Uncle Dan.
Hey!
These are fearful times.
What? How do you figure?
Well,
explain that.
Like we mentioned earlier, we are living through not only a plague, but basically we're working our way through the book of Revelation one page at a time. It seems.
Well, in order for that to be the case, there would have to be earthquakes and like locusts, and I just don't see it.
Look, when the canned soup runs out, we're all going to be eating a little book. So,
yeah.
So, guys, as you guys have mentioned, we've had quite a week here under the shadow of Moroni's trumpet, or what used to be the shady place beneath it until an earthquake knocked it out of his golden delightsome hand. And you remember on the show, I've used that term to describe life in Mormon country as living under the shadow of Moroni's trumpet. Yeah. And because God is hilarious, she saw my joke and raised me a magnitude 5.7 motherfucking earthquake on Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
So the strange, worrisome peace of our three respective social distancings was violently disrupted by our houses moving around underneath us. Not the way my sweetie and I would like to wake up in the morning.
It's nice of you to call me your sweetie, though.
Well, people should just know, Dan. I think it's time. So the shaking stopped. We threw some clothes on and went outside to check on the neighbors. It was still just kind of pre-dawn, so it was already eerie. And, I don't know about you guys, I felt like I was hallucinating the whole thing.
Oh, my God.
And everyone was fine, but it was super weird not to be able to embrace our friends and neighbors because of the fucking social distancing we're all supposed to be doing right now.
That was weird. That was rough, man. It's one of those moments where you're like, okay, everybody gather up. We need to be together. Oh, wait.
Yeah, exactly. Let's all hug it out. And so, we all stood 10 feet apart and shared our wild-eyed stories. And that at least helped. We felt like our community still existed, even at arm's length. So we came inside and we tried not to panic through some spooky aftershocks, and you guys know those were pretty fucking spooky as well.
Yeah.
And then doubly stressed, we tried to take a nap, and my poor husband had all these nightmares, and then he got up and cried in the shower, and then we cried together in the kitchen, and I don't know if they were tears of terror or stress or both, but they were super real, and oddly enough, they led to some stress laughing. So being human is still a thing.
Yeah.
And like everyone else who isn't a moron in a crowd at spring break, right now we're living with this global pandemic. Both my husband and I, and like everyone else, we have very uncertain employment futures. We have a little bit of food, but who knows if it's enough. And of course, in the U.S., we're all living in terror of the utter vacuum of federal leadership, as Dan already mentioned, which can best be described thusly. When you guys were in 6th grade, did you ever get accidentally or out of pity invited to the cool kids pool party where you ate too much? And this is not hypothetical, right? Where you ate too many hot dogs and drank too much orange sody pop and ran around like a crazy person for hours, then decided to show off the new trampoline backflip you'd learned. And with the whole 6th grade class watching, just as your toes left the mat and you arch your back, that's when the day catches up with you. And your stomach deploys a high-velocity spray of chunky orange soda, hot dog slurry with accents of relish and mustard. No? And it continues in an almost impossibly beautiful arc, iridescently lit in the warm afternoon sun, only to have that arc of Technicolor childhood splatter on all the cool kids as they watched in both horror and wonder. And then to have the backflip itself fail into a sort of lunch-basted belly flop accompanied by the screams of all the kids that would never speak to you again as the repurposed meal still bounced around you in your utter humiliation. You never had that?
No.
No, of course we did.
It doesn't ring a bell.
I mean neither. So that to me is the closest visual I could come up with for the Trump administration's response to this very real thing. And we all know I'm right.
Yeah.
And what we had in addition to all the stresses I mentioned about about above was a pretty sizable fucking earthquake on top of all the rest. And the crying that at least my husband and I did was in response to a world feeling very out of control at the moment. I think for all of us, our fragile sense of normalcy was shook by the earthquake and everything leading up to it. So I thought we had to talk to our secluded heretic family out there about how the fuck to contend with the existential fear and the crisis of uncertainty that seems to be coming from all directions at the moment.
Can I just jump in real quick and say that one of the things that's really helping me right now in this exact moment is that you've got me thinking about what would happen if you were in an earthquake, but you were on a trampoline. So I'm just exploring that.
Well,
you
here's
guys
the thing.
talk amongst yourselves.
If you were both in the air during the earthquake, you could survive not only the earthquake, but a lightning strike.
Boom.
So So everybody get out on those trampolines. Rule number 1.
Get yourself to a trampoline.
Yeah, great. First, get a tummy full of hot dog and orange pop. Done. So Doug's already on it. So, like I said, I've come up with a list, and remember, we're just your very loving but not overly qualified audio uncles, so take it with a pillar of salt. So, number 1 on the list, do not have an earthquake. Don't fuck around with that shit, you guys. They're super dumb.
Yeah, Zagreb already made that mistake. They had one this morning, so that's fine.
Just cross that off the top. So number 2, in all seriousness, I think understand your fear. Fear is an evolutionary imperative we all possess. And we talked about it a bit last week. It works to keep us alive, but it can also make us crazy or even kill us. I think we're conditioned to try and avoid it as much as we can, and we're really bad at dealing with it.
Yeah.
My suggestion in this strange time, and you guys may disagree, and please do say so if you do, is just for a bit, stare that fucker in the face. Look at what's happening and your place in it. Sit with it for a while and think it through. Fear leads to panic, and panic is a terrible place in which to make decisions. How much of your fear is something you can actually do anything about, and how much is about things you have no control over? If you can tease those apart and put them in separate buckets, that's been helpful to me.
I do agree with you with that a lot. In that I think that facing your fear is the only real way to deal with it. However, I would say that only with the caveat that sometimes fear is very, very, very strong, and you're just not going to be able to do it. You'll just traumatize yourself further if you dive into some fear. So you got to have enough distance. You got to be. It can't. If it's too present, you got to get your brain out of that space. But if you can, looking directly at a fear almost certainly diminishes it, because all our brains do is magnify.
Yeah.
So if you can look at the actual fear and just really carve down to what you're actually afraid of, what the real situation is, what your position in that real situation is, it's almost guaranteed to be smaller and more manageable than you thought it was.
Well, exactly right. I think you can't deconstruct the fear until you can look at it, and it's just overwhelming at the moment.
Well, and I was telling you guys about this earlier, and excuse me, this might come into play a little later on in the discussion, but I was sitting watching TV, just flipping channels, trying to keep my mind off my fear, and I came upon Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which, if any listeners have not seen that movie,
it's a great film.
Stop, pause the podcast.
So good.
Go watch the movie right now. But there's a sing-along scene in it that's pretty bittersweet, and I just kind of let myself go. And I mean, I'm not ashamed of the fact that I was crying so hard I was pointless to try and wipe away the tears. But it was therapeutic in the sense that I just kind of I stopped trying to hold it back. I stopped trying to keep it pushed down. I just let it kind of have its moment. And thank God it was during that movie. And I felt much, much better. I'm still fucking freaked out, but I kind of let it uncork for a minute.
Yeah, it's okay. Just go through it.
Yeah, and the truth is that with a lot of these feelings, the only way out is through.
Yeah,
and so
it's the running from fear that can make it seem much worse than it is.
And it always, it looms larger and larger the faster and harder you run. So literally stopping and just sitting with it for a while and letting the feelings wash over you and letting them, if you need to cry during a musical, go ahead. I've found myself watching a lot of comforting 80s films, some better than others, by the way. Goonies does not hold up. I am shocked by how bad that film is.
It's kind of chaotic, isn't it?
It's a mess. It's a goddamn mess. However,
I still love it.
I will say that Little Shop of Horrors is amazing and one of the best.
So we'll get to distraction.
Yeah. However, what I was going to say is, let the feelings flow. That's what I was trying to get at.
Just like, I cry all the time. Just do it. So, number 2, after you've sat with the devil for a minute. Sorry, part of us being in our home studios is I have a deaf cat who likes to yowl. So I can't do anything about her, so we're just going to live with it. And that's part of this process.
That's right.
So number 2, after staring at your fears and not having an earthquake, or number 3, I guess, is take an inventory of what you've survived in this life. I made one for myself, and it actually put some wind back in my sails. And here's just a partial list. Being a queer kid raised in a toxically homophobic cult, surviving a psychopathic older brother and extremely violent parents, suicide, getting stalked by a cougar, the big cat, not your Aunt Nancy that did really well in the divorce. That's a true story. I survived the LA riots, had a close call. I survived a very direct hit by a tornado, which led me to meeting Karl Malone. True story. We'll talk about it for patrons another time.
It is a great story, though.
It is a great story.
I survived an insane car crash, getting tear gassed in another riot, like Dan and Doug. I survived the Cola Wars. And I survived a motherfucking 5.7 magnitude earthquake just this week. So, okay, I've seen some shit. And I bet you two guys could rival that list if you thought about it. And I think we're all stronger than we think. We maybe just need to remind ourselves and each other about that. So seriously, write your inventory on a piece of whatever paper you have left and tape it to the mirror. Don't
Not
succumb
toilet paper.
Yep, don't waste toilet paper.
Fuck no.
Worth more than gold.
Don't succumb to paralyzing fear because you forgot what a fucking warrior you are. And
there
we
you
all,
go.
There's plenty of people that have survived cancer and childbirth, and not that those are the same, but you have to go to the hospital for both, or or they're refugees, or they survived war. We're going to get through this. So,
the thing is that right now, it feels like we're experiencing. Like if you let if you don't confront the ideas, if you don't confront the thoughts, if you just push them away, then it's very easy for your brain to settle into this idea somehow that there's this plague that's going to kill everybody and we're all going to die and blah, blah, blah. And that's not how this works. We are just, what we're doing is we're socially isolating ourselves so that we save some very vulnerable people in our society. But most of us, it's fine. Even if you caught the thing, you're probably going to be okay. We have, it's just we're trying to keep the hospital beds open for the people who really, really need them. So
right.
It's not as scary as it feels. It's boring and kind of crazy driving, but it's not. It's a lot of this. It feels scarier than it is, and that's something to keep in mind.
But there's a significant number of vulnerable people. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Right. That have a condition that this could be fatal. So I think it is scary. But
that's true.
Yeah.
I don't mean to discount that. There's for the people who are the most vulnerable, you should be afraid. But don't live in the fear of the thing. Live in what that let that fear be the thing that guides you to being prudent.
Yeah.
But prudence is what's important, not fear.
Right. Fear, you don't make smart decisions in fear. So that's you got to work your way out of that. So number 3, and I think this is a good one. Phone a friend. I know it's all fun and games to shit on boomers, and we have our fun too, but if you're a young person, under 30 or so, you may not have lived through a ton of major news stories like this. If you have an older person you like in your life, talk to them about this. Like if you have a grandparent, right, or a great-grandparent that's still alive, talk to them about this and see if you can gain some perspective from their wealth of free experience. They would be thrilled to be asked, and their knowledge might help put this into some historical context. And if you're an older person, be the elder your people need and check in on the younger people in your life. Like many kids, it may be they're not afraid enough. And as we're all learning, isolation can be, isolating. Reach out to people. Imagine what it must have been like during the Spanish flu of 1919. All the same fear, all the same anxiety, but almost no interconnection. Maybe a phone if you were one of the fancy people, right? Let's use this incredible gift of online interconnectedness to soften the edges of the plague of loneliness this shitty pandemic is heralding. Also, if you and other people around you were raised in end-time cults or denominations, they are either super used to living with reading every tea leaf as a sign of the apocalypse, or they're doubly traumatized by what feels like a community theater production of the Book of Revelation right now. So don't forget to check out on them either.
Yeah.
Number 4, okay, make a plan. You faced your fear, you've taken a survivor's inventory, you've talked to your grandpa. Now you got to make a plan. How are you and your family going to get through this while completely minimizing contact with others? What resources are available to you where you are? How can you weather this? It's an extraordinary time. Think in extraordinary ways. Set up protocols for how and when you leave the house, and as far as hand washing and what you can get delivered. There's information on that stuff. You can go to the CDC website. That's one part of the government we can still trust. You can go to the CDC website, and there's all kinds of information on avoidance and hygiene and stuff like that. And who can you call that might be less vulnerable than you for assistance if you're in a high-risk group? This goes back to phoning a friend above. Also, you can plan on different things as well. Now that your daily routine is very much changed, do you have more time? Pardon me. If so, you can do all the things people suggest, like reading that book you've been meaning to get to, practicing guitar, et cetera, et cetera. But maybe you've got time to call your elected reps 2 to 3 times a day, every day, to blowtorch their asses about this viral clusterfuck that is day by day taking on a very man-made dimension. That's a great new hobby for this weird time and satisfying. But make a plan, make it a to-do list, and work towards making it a reality. Number 5, I would say, is take a break. As we all know, life is very disrupted right now. A lot of you have children or parents at home, cooped up and already going a little, well, cuckoo. We're having a global snow day. A fucking weird one, but school's canceled, and so is the economy. So you know what? Take a break. If, like me, you're glued to the news and it feels like a lot too much, take a break. I'm trying to make a serious rule. Take a break. I'm trying to make a serious rule. No more social media before bed. If you can sleep more, fuck it. You can only stand so much isolation from right now. Take advantage of this snow day. Sleep late, take naps, go to bed at 6 p.m. If you have access to streaming services, there is so much good shit to catch up on and binge and see for the first time. Watch a fucking movie in the morning. Well, even in big cities. Sorry?
I was going to say, Uncle Mark, here, I was just thinking that the other day, a lot of what these last few ideas is about the mental health of everybody, right? Like,
yeah,
we're in such a terrorizing and psychically intense moment that if you've been smart, you've planned, you've got the groceries you need for your physical well-being, you really, really do need to tend to your mental well-being. And if that's watching a movie, unplugging, going to bed early, I mean, because this could be a long time. We could be in this moment for quite a while. And
you guys have no idea how good I'm getting at Candy Crush. I am a master.
Can I tell you, my house, and this is a true thing, I actually like house cleaning because my job is very complex mentally and creatively and socially. So to me, house cleaning is like a solvable crisis. So you don't have to overthink it. It's pretty neck down. So my house, this could be a coronavirus ICU unit. It is so clean right now. So I actually find pleasure in that. And it takes me away from just like staring into the abyss. And so I think, that works for me.
Yeah.
So even in big cities, it's still okay to go outside. This is not like M. Night Shyamalan's 2008 smash dud, The Happening, in which a very Bostonian Mark Wahlberg discovers the trees themselves are trying to kill us. No, silly. It's the earthquakes trying to do that. So go for a walk, go for a drive, still keep 6 to 10 feet of distance from anyone, especially Mark Wahlberg, and wash your damned hands. But get some air and enjoy humanity's final spring together, but far apart. If we don't try to... Yeah,
the long walks and long drives have been my salvation this last week. I've been taking the nice long walks. I cross the street to avoid other humans, but it's been the thing that has saved me is just being outside rather than cooping myself up.
We're very fortunate to be having a spate of good weather here in Zion. I hope you guys are wherever you are, but it's been hugely helpful. So, if we don't try to preserve our humanity by disengaging from time to time and laughing at the darkness, then this Democrat Chinese hoax that Hillary sent to Barack Obama's shameful tan suit via her unsecured emails wins, right? and we don't want that now, do we? And I think this is my last one. Number 6, ask for help. In many cultures, but very much so in the U.S., asking for help is considered shameful. If coronavirus kills anything, let it be this. Society is a web of interpersonal connections, and 100 million John Wayne movies don't make it not so. Fuck bootstraps, fuck American exceptionalism, fuck the slightly less stupid Trump, Ronald Reagan, and the poisonous myth of suicidal self-reliance he shit into our national water supply. If you need help, and you do, and you will, ask for it. Yeah. Ask for help. Let the people in your life surprise you with how they can rise to the occasion in this emergency. And if you can help someone, reach out to them directly and offer it. Tell them what you can do. Can you give them $50? Can you do a pharmacy run? Can you take an elderly person's garbage out, etc.? Let's commune differently in a time that demands us to be a community in new, different ways. And, not to be alarmist at all, but let's also be very real here. We're the reality-based community, so let's deal in reality. Lots of people are going to die, but the vast majority will not. That's the reality of the randomness of life on this improbable and wonderful planet we share with each other, and sometimes a surprisingly hostile array of microscopic beasties. So, we only get one life that we know of, so you better make the most of it. To steal Doug's line, fear is hard to shake, but imagine how it's going to feel on the other side of this storm when we can all walk out our front doors and into each other's arms once again, when we can watch a movie where friends meet up at a crowded bar and not think that they've all lost their minds. That day will come.
That's going to be a good day.
Yeah. Literally, as we were watching a movie last night, I'm like, what are you doing? Until then, let us repeat to ourselves the amazing Bene Gesserit litany against fear from Frank Herbert's Dune. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it is gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. So say that over and over again until you control the spice and therefore the universe, and binge some good shit on Netflix.
Yeah, totally. I just want to say to our listeners, what you haven't heard is that in the midst of all of this, we had to do a couple of edits because this is an emotional thing that we're all talking about, and we were feeling emotions during the recording of this thing. And so I just want everybody to know that, if we can't even make it through this segment without crying, you guys are okay. You know what I mean? We're all going to be okay. Feel your feelings. Just know that we're all in this together. This is real. It doesn't, it's funny because I had a moment recently this week where I was like, the only thing that's happening is I'm staying at home. Why is this so hard? But it is. It just is. Yeah. So be okay with that. Just accept it.
And be happy with the fact that you it's okay to have this dread. It's okay to have this fear, but you're also not burdened with the devil and with a judgmental God and the terror of maybe committing a sin or breaking one of the rules,
or that this is the literal end of the world.
Yeah,
right.
We know what's causing this. We know how it spreads. We know what we can do to help mitigate that. And we're the scientifically minded. We're the reasonable ones. And so, count your blessings isn't the right term, but bear that in mind. That hey, it's a better place to be to have a scientifically based outlook in this time of crisis than to have silly mythologies bouncing around.
Humanity has given us, people fighting much, much harder than we have so far, have given us an incredible array of weapons with which to fight this.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate for that.
And I do like the notion, Doug, that you came up with, which is that, we can actually celebrate our lack of religion. Get out, go into masturbate in every room in your house. Have some fun with it. You know what I mean?
I'm masturbating right now.
Figure out new porn. Who knows? Maybe you'll invent something.
Maybe you'll discover a kink you didn't know you had. I know I did like Thursday.
I know
I did waking up to an earthquake.
Listen, your body is a playground, not a temple. Go and have some fun.
That's right. So, well, thanks for sticking with me through that, guys. That was hopefully useful. And we love you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Love you all.
Moving on.